Panthers might get bullied. It's important to just have an understanding of what could potentially happen to the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. And the reason why I say it's the most serious conversation is because it's the one that we probably need to be reminded of. If you get bullied by the Eagles and it looks ugly and you get pushed around and you feel like you're being, as a team, like emasculated by what the Eagles do to you, that does not reverse everything good that has happened over the last 5 weeks. Rebuilding a team, rebuilding a NFL franchise from the depths and the dungeons and the doldrums of which the Panthers fell into is a 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. 4 steps forward, 2 steps back process. It's not stairs. It's not, well, we get better 1 step at a time. It's not that. And you can look at any of the rebuilds that have happened. There are big steps, right? Getting your quarterback right, it's a giant leap, but then you waste a second-round pick on a bad edge rusher. Then you spend too much on your guard. But then look at this, a 4th rounder turns into a Pro Bowler. Like, it's steps forward and back. The Panthers have ripped off consecutively 4 straight steps forward in the last 4 games, which is awesome, but it also means you're due, right? 1 or 2 steps back should not scare you, shouldn't scare me, shouldn't scare them. Especially when there's like reasons for it. It's not going to be out of the blue. I'm not sitting here saying the Panthers might get bullied because I have absolutely no reasons to think they might get bullied. The Eagles are a bad matchup for the Panthers. And by the way, certain teams are bad matchups for really good teams. So it's not embarrassing to run into a team where it's like, gosh, I hope we don't face this particular team in the playoffs. Not because they're more talented than us, not because they're a better football team than us, but because the things they do really well line up with the things that we have a hard time stopping. Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, spoke to the media this week, and he talked about the challenges that the Eagles' offense in particular presents to the Panthers.
There's a lot of good things happening in there, and when you look specifically at their offensive personnel, it's no surprise that they're playing at that level. Starts up front with a really, really outstanding offensive line. They got really good skill players, Saquon, Mr. Brown, Mr. Smith, all of those guys, and Jalen is doing a great job at the quarterback position, really controlling the whole thing. And so Kellen is doing a great job calling the plays. We know they're going to run the ball. They do a good job with their passing game, and there's so many good things that they do. There's so many different ways that they can attack you, and it's going to be a tremendous challenge for us on Sunday.
Tremendous challenge. Yeah, I agree.
I love the look that you gave me when we were listening to that soundbite from Panthers defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, because it feels like, to the media, maybe a little bit of a poker face, like stone cold instincts of, yeah, like we know what challenges they possess, but we've improved over the past 4 weeks, and we're up for the challenge. But do you think deep down inside he might be going, oh, crap, like this is not the Buccaneers, this is not the Saints, this is not the Giants. You face Kansas City, I get that, but I'm kind of reminded of the conversation you had where Panthers fans maybe needed to tamper their expectations a little bit because the Eagles could go out there and run them on Sunday.
Well, here's the thing. The Panthers, and this is not me like with an opinion, this is stone cold facts. The Panthers are the worst team in the league this season at stopping the run.
Yep.
And more specifically, right? Because one of the things that I'm trying to make sure I do is when I look at statistics, I hone in on exactly what I'm trying to find. So they are dead last in the NFL. They give up the most rushing yards to running backs. Okay, because a lot of times you look up like rushing defense, and that includes scrambles by the quarterback or end arounds to the wide receiver, which I don't think of as what the Panthers truly struggle with. What they struggle with is when the offense lines up in a run down, right, a run play, in a run formation, in a obvious, hey, we're going to run the ball kind of blinking sign. And then they proceed to have success against the Panthers. You like the running back off tackle, the running back up the middle. The counter. So if the Panthers are worst team in the league, they give up more rushing yards to running backs than anyone else in the league, and there's about 20 yards difference between them and second place, then you're going up against the Eagles, who, by the way, Saquon Barkley is on pace for 2,125 yards this season.
I mean, he's on pace for an MVP season.
That would be the single season record for most rushing yards in a season. That's what he's on pace for right now. That's bad matchups. The Eagles, on defense, give up the 7th fewest rushing yards per game to running backs. The Panthers need their running game to make things easier for Bryce Young.
Another thing to be reminded of, Tim, when you look at the past 2 weeks, one thing that another category, or going back to not being able to stop the run up.
Saquon, yep.
Saquon.
Or stop the run up to this point, and they're going to be facing
Stop
Saquon.
the run in general. It's crazy to think that Jalen Hurts has more rushing touchdowns this season than Saquon Barkley does.
That's tush push right there.
And yeah, that is true. But
Saquon Barkley would be having an unbelievable MVP campaign if they just let him run it in from the 6-inch line rather than Hurts.
But they were able to let Baker Mayfield improvise with his legs last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Jalen Hurts could pose the same problems for this Panthers defense.
I don't even think they're going to need to as much, because the one thing about the Mahomes scrambles and everything is the Chiefs get their game started. I know everybody loves the Kareem Hunt, now that Pacheco's back. The first thing you have to worry about when you play the Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes. When you're playing against the Eagles, it starts with the run. It starts with that. I mean, that's why they paid Saquon. So this is the equivalent of to a cross-sport reference here from things we're going to be talking about today. The University of North Carolina basketball team doesn't have a true center. They don't have a back-to-the-basket big. They don't have a true rim protector. They're not going to be excited if they get matched up in the first round of the NCAA tournament with a team that has 3 NBA 7-footers. That's just a bad matchup. Even if R.J. Davis is the best player on the floor and this, that, and it's just a bad. That's what the Eagles are for the Panthers. So I can sit here and say all of the glowing positive things that I've said about the Panthers, kind of increasingly each week over the last 4 games, 5 weeks, including the bye. And we can talk about winning 2 games. We can talk about taking games to overtime. We can talk about forcing Patrick Mahomes to go full into the telephone booth and put on the Superman cape and come out. Like, you made him need to do that. We can talk about that and then also look at this game and go, there's a reason they're favored by 12.5, 13 points at most sports books. And there's a reason why, even if this game looks ugly, gets ugly, moves in a bad direction, as long as there are the flashes of things that I think you need to see, I can come in on Monday when we're doing Monday sound off and open up the phone lines or when we're breaking it down and say, no, that game wasn't a disaster. Sure, you lost by 21 points and you gave up an absurd number of rushing yards, and at times it looked like there was nothing you could do on offense. But it wasn't a disaster because, remember that 3rd down Bryce Young completed, or because Chuba Hubbard did have a good day, even if it was maybe not as efficient as we're used to seeing, because it's more impressive against an Eagles rush defense.
I would like to hit you with an analogy, Tim.
Let's do it.
Is it fair to say that maybe Lyle needs his blanket taken away from him this weekend? And what I mean by that is...
Who needs his blanket taken away?
Lyle. Charlie Brown?
Yep.
What I mean by that
Linus. You're going Linus.
Lyle. Sorry. Already messed it up.
That's fine. I was lost there, but now I'm with you.
To me, I feel like Bryce Young should not rely on Adam Thielen a whole lot this week. I need somebody else to step up in the wide receiving core. Unless nothing's going their way offensively and Adam Thielen's the only one that can produce touchdowns.
This is something to watch, and we may have to talk about this later in the show. If you go back and I like to explain my evolution of how we look at the Panthers. If you go back earlier in the season, I was very, very against guys like David Moore, Adam Thielen, Tommy Tremble, even though he's still on a rookie contract, he's a little bit older. I was against those guys dominating target share, dominating the receiving yards, because I thought Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker and Jadeveon Sanders and these young guys, maybe earlier in the season, Jonathan Mingo before the trade, needed to be tested. You need to see what you have in those guys. You need to see what they need to work on. I haven't been able to be upset that Adam Thielen has been so featured the last 2 or 3 weeks because Jadeveon Sanders and Jalen Coker have been hurt. They haven't been playing. It's like you can't throw every pass to Xavier Legette. Like, where else are you supposed to go? So I have no problem that Adam Thielen's been a safety blanket for Bryce, or that Moore was making some catches. Now that Coker and Jadeveon Sanders are expected back this weekend, depending on how they ease them in, there's probably 1 or 2 more weeks where Thielen will be extremely featured. And then after that, I think you get back to the young player takeover. But because of the injuries, I have no problem with Thielen's role thus far. I don't want him to be a guy that leads them in catches every game from this point on, or leads them in targets in any game from this point on, because I think the younger guys will benefit more from the targets.